ladies and gentlemen, welcome to International Affairs, broadcasting, of course, from Dhaka's Gulshan studio. My name is Shamsul Alam Panto, and it's, of course, 20th of January. Today, the discussions will be held from across the globe. All the events that have shaped the last 20 days will be a matter of discussion. While I wait for my attendees to come, I want to talk about who shall be joining us on the program today. Of course, Mr. Abdullah Al-Mamun should be joining. He's, of course, a distinguished professor. Meanwhile, we have our geopolitical correspondent, Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. A very good morning to you, Norman. I want to talk about the Gaza Board of Peace. From what I understand, Donald Trump, the U.S. president, is controlling this Board of Peace to initiate what is going to be the future of Gaza. And of course, he has invited Moroccan King to join the Gaza Board of Peace, as well as the Kremlin leader, Vladimir Putin, has also received confirmation of this invitation. However, I see a vast problem in this Gaza Board of Peace. It does not include characters from the Palestinian ethnicity. So once again, I would want to know how you felt about this issue, as this is taken on from CNN, Al Jazeera, BBC, and all the major news articles and outlets out there. I want to understand from Norman Floyd Barnes' perspective.
Yes, greetings. Good morning from Washington. As you stated, this Board of Peace is appear to be a board of kings and high rulers, but this Board of Peace is designed to reconstruct Gaza, and it doesn't appear to be any of the players involved, Palestinians involved in this in this group, which is going to be a problem because the main objective is to stabilize the region and to establish a government. And it appears like it's right now a outside-in type of situation. Basically, the outsiders, people will come in and I'll use the word colonize again, this area and dictate and tell the people who live in the area what to do and how they can do it. This will not succeed. The people are not going to stand for an outside ruler coming in and telling them how to manage their day-to-day life. It will cause problems, conflicts, and maybe more violence. So I think this Board of Peace is more of a land grab situation, opportunist situation where outsiders can come in and develop at their scale and not taking consideration from the people, the Palestinians who live in the area. So again, this effort again to reconstruct and rebuild and move to the next level is going to have problems. It's not going to be very successful, and it's something that the people again has not been consulted about, not been involved with, and basically been told this is how it's going to be. So hold on.
Of course, I want to understand more regarding this matter. I was hearing about this issue from Norman Floyd Barnes, but back in the studio we have Mr. Abdullah Al-Mamun. I welcome you onto the program today. As you were coming into the studio, me and Norman were discussing about the Gaza Board of Peace. Now, this is a very controversial topic as I think about it, because Donald Trump has suggested countries must contribute almost about $1 billion to secure permanent membership with shorter-term membership. Otherwise, a model that many governments find controversial or unworkable. So these are some of the issues. And later we see Vladimir Putin joining the ranks, getting an invitation. We see the Moroccan king joining in this. Is this a business? Is the Board of Peace a business to its chairman, Donald Trump? What is your analysis? It is, of course, a very significant news coming out of the Middle East.
Yeah, and don't forget, the tenure of East membership will be 3 years. And this is one of the predicaments, I believe, in joining the Board of Peace. And as Norman was saying, that on the one hand, it has been declared that Donald Trump would be the chair of this Board of Peace. and he's inviting other members. If you could carefully look at the countries who have given kind of a green signal to join, even the Pakistan and India is also interested to join. So I'd like to see Pakistan and India perspective differently, and therefore I'm bringing this issue here. It is to create an ally, particularly from the developing nations and representation from the Muslim world. Pakistan is currently having a very good relationship with the Trump administration. I would say rather it's a honeymooners relationship after a couple of decades. So this is the intimation we initially got, that there has to be something, and it is the countries will be looking into it more from the political perspective than the real outcomes. And that, I think, is prevailing now. And I don't know about the real outcome of this Board of Peace, because what Palestinians need, they need now the reconstruction, need the health, need the other support for living. And it will create a chaos. First of all, I was hearing, Norman, that if you don't know the local context well, and therefore the international occupations or colonial regime failed. And again, when Gaza needs independence, needs international recognition, needs clear-cut pathway for their national entity and survival, I don't think that this Board of Peace would work. And it is already creating chaos. And don't forget, there are threats threatened by the US President. If some of the countries do not join, he will use his tax percentage against them. So, and if any of the countries, being afraid of Trump's tax weapon, even join this Board of Peace, I don't see that it would work. And don't also forget the debate and the when we are having it from October, nobody from any international scholars or even people with at least profound knowledge on Gaza and the conflict, who are following it for a long, no one supported this idea. And we always thought it's a kind of an intervention just to stop the Gaza killing there, and also look at ways and the permanent solutions. But now it is kind of reversed, that the way Trump is pushing it, it seems like this is the only solution for Palestinian people, which is very unfortunate. I don't really see the successful operations and also the conclusion of Board of Peace.
Of course, I like your analysis for the people living on the ground in Gaza. Of course, they're living in very detrimental situations.
Yes.
Buildings are still in ruins, families are still grieving, entire neighborhoods are wiped out. Against that backdrop,
winter
and the rain has affected.
Yes.
And of course, against that backdrop, talk of governance and reconstruction feels disconnected from reality. That is how I see about it. And of course, it's not feeding towards the fact that Gazans are being relieved as a result of this Board of Peace.
Of course, and these Board of Peace never guarantee their dream of having a state. On the other hand, what you said, that currently Gaza is calling for humanitarian support. But what we can see in the surface, there is more of politics and more aligned to the US alliance, and also favorable to the Israelis. And I don't know whether you have noticed that there are few scholarly writings coming out from Palestine, and they are clearly criticizing this approach, that this is not sustainable, for three reasons particularly. Number one, they consider it's a reoccupation by the international community. That's what I read from the academia. Secondly, this big conglomerate led by US will always, people will always be suspicious, particularly the Middle East, that what could be the real outcome of it. And thirdly, the design, the whole idea of Board of Peace is not really a solution to Palestine, particularly mid-term, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. There is no clear roadmap for the humanitarian solutions. The devastation Israel has made, you are talking about the amount, you are talking about the collection of funds, but there's no clear roadmap. How would it be constructed, at what time, and which way, when the whole country is just a desert now, people are just surviving there. And finally, I think the daunting challenge to implement this Board of Peace would be having the confidence from Arab nations. I don't see, you will be agreeing with me.
Of course, the silence of Arab nations are felt.
Silence. These are the three factors revealing in the academia particularly, and in most of the articles I was following, It tells these three basic things about this. So I don't know in which way it is going, although the Trump administration is pushing hard and they will be continuously pushing. But the three areas I have just revealed, those has to be addressed if we'd like to see the success of this package.
Of course, I want to ask Norman Floyd Barnes regarding the very same issue. As Professor Abdullah Al Mamun was talking in the studio, we understand that the US administration has involved itself in a matter of a foreign land, in a matter of Israel and Palestine, in a matter in which we've seen a modern day genocide. It has killed 80,000 people and it has injured over 500,000 people in this genocidal act. Of course, it began with the October 7th issue of Hamas attacking Israeli citizens, and ever since then the destruction of Gaza has been the motive and the ultimate plan. I want to ask Norman Floyd Barnes, as an American citizen, do you really think the contributions of this board of peace, do you think it may backfire on the fact that it was making America great again, but how it is connecting to trying to fix a place like Gaza? How will that make America great again? This is, of course, a matter of debate, matter of argument. I want to learn more from Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, thank you for the question. From all outward appearances, this border pieces has been designed to control the area. Um, and let's remember, the main purpose of this conflict was to basically over the issue of a two-state uh, region. You know, will Palestine have its own country? Will Palestine have its own territory? And that has been somehow smoothed over. And with this board of peace of conquerors or people who want to control the area, and the Palestinians will not have a say, a right. As I see it, this border peace will not allow the Palestinians to get back on their feet. There will not be many years, decades before we even have a voice. So I'm very skeptical of the content of it, the purpose of it, and it appears to be just another attempt to uh, control the people of Palestine and to bring this under one. It still looks like an Israeli American type of situation, and Israel will want to have control, influence, and impact on what goes on in the area. So once again, a defeat for the Palestinian people is what I see. They knew some new buildings and a new environment and infrastructure, but their will and what they have to say about their lives day to day and quality of life is not going to be any better.
Of course, it is important to understand the Israeli position as well. We see a rift between Israeli policymakers. I want to say this because Benjamin Netanyahu has accused Bennett and Lapid of seeking coalition with the Muslim Brotherhood. Of course, I'm talking about leaders who are also the former prime ministers, Yair Lapid and Naftali Bennett. They, of course, are saying that the cat is out of the bag. Proof that Lapid and Bennett will form a government with the Muslim Brotherhood was tweeted by Benjamin Netanyahu, sharing an interview with the United Arab List leader Mansour Abbas. Of course, this is policy differences and indifferences, as there might be elections coming up in the coming days for Israel. But once again, even Israelis understand that this war has taken a very drastic role in the region. It has destabilized the region. It has made sure that nations like Iran would retaliate in the matter of the face of 80,000 deaths. So I want to have another question. Do you think there is rifts between the Israeli government? Then I'll come back into the studio. So I want to understand from Norman Floyd Barnes, what is the Israeli government thinking about this? What's the future of Israel's government in understanding the Muslim Brotherhood?
Me personally, don't feel that the Israeli government is going to tolerate any involvement uh, with the Brotherhood. They are very fearful of their impact and influence on the region, and if they had their way, they would be totally eliminated. So it's something that is very. I mean, they even had issues about Turkey. They had concern about Turkey being represented on the board. So the violence has stopped. Underlying factors are still there, which will contribute to another conflict rising up from these ashes. So I don't think this is over. I don't think Israel is comfortable and is going to be happy with the outcome of anything that comes out of this border peace. And I think there will be more conflict that will continue. It may not be on the surface, but on the ground, back door, backstages, there will be additional problems and more, hate to say, it, hostilities. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming back into the studio with Professor Abdullah Al Mamun. In the Middle East, there is significant news that I want to bring out. It's, of course, regarding Syria. And Syrian fighting is still going on. A manhunt is going on for dozens of ISIL fighters who escaped prison during heavy infighting between the Syrian army and the Kurdish-led fighters in the northeastern of the region. Of course, a ceasefire was called upon by Ahmed al-Shara, but the hope for that kind of ceasefire is removing as the violence is continuing every hour. So once again, another nation in Middle East is seeing infighting amongst its regions. And not only so, a couple of months back, we've seen the Israeli position. They had bombarded Syria's defense ministry. It's a huge implication, huge matter of geopolitical significance. I want to understand how you're feeling.
No, I first feel pity for the Syrian people. We didn't believe that the taking over power by al-Safa government would resolve everything. There are always a possibility of conflict, but just after perhaps 1 year or less than 1 year, the situation we thought that deteriorated much more bigger than that. And you see, what we thought that Israel would have accepting this, and they would not try to interfere in the issues of internal conflict of Syria. But now you can see the things, the way the things are moving. We can clearly see that there is provocation from Israel and also support for that group. And that destabilized the whole chemistry in the country as well. And we should not forget the Turkish interest, Russian interest here again. And yes, Russia may pull the leg from there with the soldier and the ammunition, but they have their interest in Middle East. And the issue is the way it is escalating, I think it would continue. And I can see that Syria will be in mass again with this conflict. And don't forget, any of the international players are not really focusing on Syria now. None of them, because Iran is one issue there, Israel issue is there, and things are happening, and under the midst of Greenland conflict, nobody is truly giving attention to Syria. So this is the biggest now the misery for the Syrian new government, and I am sorry, but I can see that Syrian people's suffer would continue further.
Of course, a very wonderful observation by our professor in the studio. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for a short break, but after the break we will talk about Greenland. Do stay with us as we head for a short commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand
Welcoming all our guests and viewers back onto the program. Of course, I'm joined with Professor Abdullah Al Mamoon in the studio, while we have Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, D.C. We were talking about the Gaza Board of Peace. However, there is far more updates toward the Arctic Circle. Of course, I'm talking about Greenland. Denmark has sent additional troops to Greenland amidst the United States President Donald Trump's threats to take control of the self-governing Danish territory. The chief of the Royal Danish Army, Peter Boysen, and a substantial contribution of soldiers landed in Western Greenland on Monday evening. Public broadcaster DR and other Danish media has reported this incident. Of course, this is a trying time for that region, as the breakaway from NATO is now imminent because of this escalation towards Greenland. I want to first get Norman Floyd Barnes' interpretation regarding this latest update. More troops are joining into that island. 57,000 nationals of Greenland. How are they going to voice their concern? And of course, there are vast differences between the American way of doing things and, of course, the Greenland way of doing things. So I want to understand how you feel. Do you see that an annexation is very imminent? Norman Floyd Barnes.
Thank you for the question. My viewpoint is that Greenland is been identified by the Trump administration as a strategic location where the government wants to acquire the land for purposes yet to be determined. The government is talking about the location as a separation from Russia and the control of the Arctic region, and basically to secure the Western Hemisphere dome of Golden Dome of security. But the people in Greenland has not been consulted. The people in Greenland do not want this or haven't even been approached about it. And the people of the United States and most of the Congress still trying to figure out how this is going to work. It doesn't appear to be a fit. It doesn't appear that it's going to help the United States. It's just another, I call it toy, another object that the president wants to have. He has stated, and he's continued to state, he wants Greenland. He do not believe the Danish government or NATO can secure the area. It doesn't matter how many Danish troops go over there, how many NATO, they can send all of Europe military over there. He still will not believe that the European Union, NATO, and particularly Denmark can provide the necessary protection that he's looking for. So with that said, he is moving forward with the plan on the total annexation of the country. He has not once said anything about the feelings of the people. Uh, it's basically appears to be what we call a land grab. He want the land for his purposes, military, transactional purposes, and future profits. So we have to look at what's going on as we follow the path of the Trump administration. They usually find a way to basically get what they want. So this situation appears to be something that is very confusing to most people, but there's a plan. There's a plan for the this administration to get the land. So we have to wait and see how this thing plays out. But right now, yes, everybody's opposed to it, but there's one vote only. Remember, this administration has only one vote, and that's Donald Trump.
That was a lovely way to end your statement. Of course, that one vote is Donald Trump, and he is influencing all the decision making and the policy, foreign policy of the United States of America. I want to focus in the studio with Professor Abdullah Al-Mamun. You were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes and how he believes this autocracy, this dictatorship, I would say, in my very frank opinion, that Donald Trump is pursuing. But according to Al Jazeera, NATO Secretary Mark Rutte on Monday met with Danish Ministry of Defense Troels Lund Poulsen and Greenland's Minister of Foreign Affairs Vivian Motzfeldt to discuss proposal for boosting Arctic security, including the establishment of a joint NATO mission in the Danish territory of Greenland. So NATO seems to be in a very precarious situation, and NATO does not know exactly what kind of exactly who to serve
And how to react.
how to react. And
But where Barnes ends, I would like to start from there. The
Please.
one vote, and that one vote is now having heavy mind and head, not being rewarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. And he frankly tweeted and said to the Finnish Prime Minister, perhaps, that as Norwegians, that as you didn't awarded me the Nobel Peace Prize,
I don't see eye to
owe
eye.
any responsibility
Right.
of peace to anybody else, and only peace is American interest. Thanks, Norman, for that wonderful statement of one vote. But a couple of development has to be looked into it. And yesterday or last couple of days, we're following demonstrations in Greenland. Of course, Greenlanders, they're very concerned. And secondly, in a number of countries, including Hungary, Norway, Finland, and Denmark, we can see that people are raising the voice. And don't forget the trade issue brought here by the name of the tariff. And he threatened France today that it could increase to 200% to your liquor export if you don't agree in my terms. And more development, I think. Don't forget one thing, that when we are saying, as Barnes has mentioned, that Golden Dome issue for the northern part security of USA, that is very important, but we should not forget one of the real causes, that is the RES, what we are saying, that real earth material there, that is very important. And one of the key issues in this conflict, sometimes we forget to mention in discussion, and we are focusing more on the military issues, security issues, but don't forget the value of RES, the green energy, and the very important material for defense technology. That should not be ignored. And another issue, you see, of course, last time we also discussed about the Greenland, but the positioning is also, of course, very important, and it is Russia and China. But do you really see any kind of movement, any kind of provocative statements from China and Russia? Of course not, there's nothing. And I don't know really where the NATO would stand in future. The existence of whole NATO is already being threatened. You know, the 8 countries that have been sanctioned with the 10% tariff, including
NATO
Germany.
is NATO.
Germany and UK, perhaps, they have been sanctioned with the tariff as well. So I don't know in which direction going, and this is the reason I say it is a chicken and egg problem for NATO. On the one hand,
who came first?
Who came first? Who came
that
first?
was a simple
And I
situation.
don't know whether, Dominic, if you can hear me, I don't know, it's a one of the most difficult situations in the history of NATO to decide. And the way things are moving, I don't think that NATO would have minimum respect or regard from Trump's administration. Norman was a bit naive and not direct in saying that ultimately Trump would be occupying Greenland, but I don't know in which way, when, in which year, but the saga started from the very beginning, middle of the 2025, that would continue.
And initially, when he was elected, he said Greenland is going
it's
to
very important for
United States.
He is very clear in his autocracy that I offer you a good deal to buy the land, and if you don't, then we'll
I have
do
other
this.
means that I might
And don't
pursue.
forget his tweet yesterday night, I think, that until unless European countries agree in his term, he would not contribute to NATO. He don't rely on anything. He doesn't respect any trade agreements, rules, regulation, nothing else. So in such a situation, that is what I said when and I mentioned about Norman. I really see that Greenland people's suffering would continue. And the most pathetic thing and very unfortunate thing is that these two parties are talking. Few nations have already been involved apart from the NATO itself. But we are not hearing the voice, statement, wish, will, anything of Greenlandic people. This is not a good appearance of a new world emerging under Trump's new administration. This is you can't really accept this. And perhaps in your last program, I said that no state who are in favor of peace, including the international bodies, should not be silent here. It is important that every state, regardless from Africa to Asia, from Asia to Latin America, everyone should raise the voice. We have seen the catastrophe in Venezuela. Now it is in Greenland, and we don't know.
And very briefly, it was in Iran as well.
And Iran as well.
Very briefly.
Iran as well. Thanks to Iranians people. I'm not going to the debate of Islamic rule and the democracy, but they're very fortunate that they're not being targeted well by Trump administration. Perhaps it's a very difficult equation to be there in Iraq than the Venezuela. But my request to everybody else listening, students, teachers, businessmen, diplomats, whoever it is, all the country leaders will be following this program. Wherever you are, raise your voice. Until you raise your voice, show the collectivism, the whole world, the way.
Yes, your comments is very pointed, and I have to agree. It's a grave contradiction. On one hand, you want to have your own area, and you want to leave this area to Russia. You want to leave the area to China. But you're doing right now, you're saying, I want Greenland so I can defend myself against Russia and to stop China from moving on. But you are not contesting anything that they do. You're basically moving in a direction that shows that you have little regard for the people of Greenland and their wishes, their ways, but more so your transitional administration has a plan that you want to implement regardless of the people. It looks like, as we're talking about Greenland, I'll use Greenland as example, the people are what we call collateral damage. They basically, we want the land and hell with the people. We don't need the people. We just want the property and the land, and the people will do what they need to do, or they have to go somewhere else. So I don't understand how this thing is going to work out. Yes, you can land grab, but you still have people still living in the area, unless you resort to the techniques of America, what they did with our Native Americans, Indians. So it appears that history is trying to repeat itself.
Of course,
very quickly,
very brilliant. Please,
yeah,
please
just to
go on.
compliment Norman, don't forget the intention of Danish government in terms of the investment from China and Russia, particularly from China. If you look at the graph of FDI to Denmark, they, after the interest or prescription or suggestion from US, they are gradually refusing Chinese and Russian investment. And they have also started scrutinizing the companies who are interested to invest in Denmark or even to some extent to Greenland, whether they have any connection to Ukraine war. So this is a huge respect from Denmark to Donald Trump and his cabinet or his administration. But unfortunately, that hasn't been counted in this whole matter of Greenland issue. That is disregarded. On the one hand, we know that in many cases, Trump's administration's intention is international trade, and in rebuilding U.S. again. This is one of their slogans, one of their positions that they're promoting, and they're imposing tariff to a number of countries. But here that has been ignored. So
right.
My argument is you are not consistent. You are not at all. Your
Correct.
partners can believe you that what you said, I'm doing that. We are reducing trade with China and Russia, but even obeying your suggestion as a trusted partner, you are not showing any regard, any respect to a partner like Denmark. There is a long-term trusted partner.
Right.
So this is the huge, that will create huge problem and mistrust among many U.S. allies. I don't know, Norman, how would you reflect to this, but in a long term, I really see this is a big issue for the U.S. government, particularly for Trump administration.
No, that was a very brilliant observation by Mr. Professor Abdullah Al-Mamun, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes. However, ladies and gentlemen, Norman Floyd Barnes is said to be disconnected from Zoom. But I want to finish this segment of the program by saying one thing, which is very important. When a clown enters the house no longer stays normal. It turns into a circus. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short commercial break.
Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10.
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডের গাড়ির লগে।
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও? অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে? কেডা? হাঁস মুরগি মাছ।
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে এসএফএম ছাড়া কিছুই খাইবো না।
হ্যাঁ গো, এসএফিটের খবর ওরা জানলো কেমনে?
আরে ভালো জিনিসের খবর ছড়াতে কি আর মাইক লাগে? খবর ভাসে বাতাসে বাতাসে।
আরে দেখো, এসএফিটের জাদু।
সম্পূর্ণ নিজস্ব তত্ত্বাবধানে বিশেষজ্ঞদের সমন্বয়ে প্রস্তুত হয় এসএ ফিডের পশু খাদ্য। অত্যাধুনিক প্রযুক্তিতে তৈরি এই পশু খাদ্য যেমন নিরাপদ তেমনি স্বাস্থ্যকর। এসএ ফিড, নিরাপদ ফিড, স্বাস্থ্যকর প্রোটিন। এসএ অ্যাগ্রোফিডস লিমিটেড একটি এসএ গ্রুপ অফ কোম্পানিজের প্রতিষ্ঠান।
Grand Palace, 5-star chain hotel, Zinda Bazaar, Sylhet. Local and international cuisines. Exclusive banquet hall for all events. 5-star luxurious rooms and suites with bulletproof glass. Fiberglass swimming pool. Relaxing spa
One can include the Rohingya crisis. It's been ongoing. There's been no talk about it whatsoever, even though there's been a humanitarian corridor, but none has gone back into Myanmar. And Myanmar had a junta-led, biased election just last month, which they failed to address anything about the Rakhine state. And coming back to Bangladesh and its national parliamentary elections, this time around, with the arrival of Mr. Tariq Rahman and bolstering of BNP, the loss of Begum Khaleda Zia, all of these events are now collectively bringing in the election that is coming before us. I want your opinion as well as what do you think that might happen?
No, I mean, let me just quickly reflect on the Rohingya issue. One of my biggest disappointments with Professor Inu's government is failure to address Rohingya issue.
Right.
Particularly because of his governments and advisor connections internationally, including himself as the caretaker government chief. The reason I'm saying this, initially I've heard that his special assistant, Mr. Khalil, was being assigned by him to deal with the Rohingya issue. And we have just heard that issue again when he was speaking in the United Nations last September. But except that, we didn't see any visible initiatives or any steps from the government to resolve this issue, which is one of the biggest security threats for the country, not in terms of the traditional security, but also from the non-traditional security perspective, because you need to feed almost now, we know officially 2 million, it's more than that.
Right.
It's a huge threat, both from the traditional and non-traditional perspective, but this government totally ignored that part. And now moving on to the political issues, I mean, of course, Tariq Rahman's return to Dhaka is a huge relief. I don't only consider for BNP, but also for the nation. You need a leader who could lead the nation, and we are suffering in three fronts, economically, socially, and of course, politically. The vision this guy has showcased, saying that I have a dream, that has now been translated in 8 pillars that include education, health, youth, employment,
right,
farmer, and of course, women and the financial securities. That is well aligned with this plan of I have a plan. And second important thing is that, of course, I'm keeping respect to other political parties.
the contenders who will contest.
Yes, but most of the people now believe that we have a leader, may not have the yardstick to solve the problem in a day or in a month, but who can really hold this stick well and can lead to the country to get out of this chaos in 3 sectors, both social, economic, and politics. Another important thing we have to consider, you just mentioned about the issue of the postal ballot. This is a very good initiative, but unfortunately, few issues have been emerged due to this. And I understand that our brothers who live abroad, they are the main pillars of our economy now.
Remittance soldiers.
They're the remittance soldiers, but many of them are not educated. They live in high-story buildings, in condos. So they are using one single address and some opportunities. And we've heard they have connection with a political party, quote unquote.
Yes.
So they are very organized, and they have reached this labor force and used the same address, and we don't know whether there are provocations from them to give a vote to their party or to a certain corner. This is one of the biggest issues arose due to the inexperience and also because of lack of education and understanding about the postal ballot. But I appreciate this, and now I would like to see that half of the postal ballot out of 15 lakhs is from outside and half from inside. So that 7 lakhs could create huge influence in constituencies. So it is important that the ballot votes are shelved, organized, whatever way you said, and there should not have any confusion in people's mind. It has to be organized in a very transparent way so that political parties could keep faith on that when we talk about the postal ballot. Another development, I think, we have heard today that Jamaat has unveiled their nation-building plan. They're
Yeah, and
got
a policy
new-
dialogue was held just
new-
this morning.
Yeah. And I appreciate Jamaat's 3-4 main pillars. They have said particularly 3: democracy, economic development, and also stability. And I'm very happy to see they have segregated plans for each sectors that includes health, women, education, economy, etc., etc. But it would have been very fascinating to hear from them about the emerging mob culture, about their position, the religious use of a religion as the UN.
Would religion become a boundary between governance of the people?
How, because they have a question around them in terms of religious issues.
Right.
We always thought that Jamaat will introduce Sharia and they'll stick to the very principle of Islam, but they are being flexible now, offering.
And they're spending
flexibility in
hugely
terms
on
of the-
PR campaigns.
Yes,
I mean, they're
dress,
trying to save their
yes,
reputation.
Yes, dress. They are relaxed in terms of the religion. They've included one Hindu candidate. We also, of course,
in Khulna,
appreciate.
yes.
So these are the big questions around Jamaat, that whether they are crazy being to power, even ignoring the principles of Islam. That question could have been interesting in their the whole day program they're having. Second important thing, we'll be continuously asking about Jamaat position of independence, and we don't like to see that they get ride on the horse of 20 July revolution or July uprising, just try to develop narrative over.
Of course, it has to be a progressive government.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like to see
You have to
that.
solve the realistic issues of Bangladesh.
Don't also forget that when we see a narrative is developing, that July 71, yes, important, but July is more important, it's new, we should not bring 71 issue in their politics, and they should not be blamed as war criminals. But I think very constructively I'm saying that Jamaat should address this issue. What about their religious position in terms of the democratic practice? What is their position in introducing Sharia law? We have heard from few of the leaders here and there saying about the Sharia law, but we'd like to hear from them. And also, how would they take the nation forward without respecting 1971? I mean, of course, we really value Jamaat's contribution in July uprising. But we like to see their clear stand on independence, on Islamic issues. And we don't like to, just to conclude,
please.
To be very honest, they have promulgated a very good plan as it appears. But at the same time, on the one hand, if you say Islamic State to introduce Islamic rules, on the other hand, you become fully embedded with the democratic system.
You move away from being a secular nation.
Yeah, then you move away from the secular issues, or whether they're very, very Islamic centrist or modernist. That position has to be clearly defined, or clearly defined.
I've really enjoyed this session that I've had with you, Professor Abdullah Al Mamun, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude here. Of course, today is 20th of January, and on this day in 1961, U.S. President John F. Kennedy delivered his inaugural address in front of nearly 1 million people. He was the youngest person to have been elected president, and his speech garnered praise from across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this was International Affairs. Do stay tuned on tomorrow's program. Goodbye.